Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the entrepreneurial scale-up system and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from each other's experiences. I'm Granger Forson again, and on this episode of the show, I'm joined by Phil Staunton of D2M Innovation. Today, Phil shares his journey of scaling with soul, strategic withdrawals, and sustainable innovations in the world of product design. To ensure you don't miss any inspirational future episodes, do subscribe to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Also, you can nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up journey. You can find out how in the show notes. So, let's now dive into the inspiring journey of innovation, scaling with soul, and sustainability with Phil Staunton. So, hello, Phil Staunton. Welcome to ScaleUp Radio. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, as you said, my name's Phil. I run a company called D2M Innovation. I'm a product designer by background, and my company has helped hundreds of people basically to develop their new product ideas from initial concept through prototyping and then launch into product and sales. We've had various kind of clients on Dragon's Den, and we also work with quite a lot of businesses as well as they launch new products within their ranges.
Fabulous. Yes. Straight out of my background as an engineer, making products and thinking about going to market. So let's take us through, any product, any idea, but what as I'm a client, I'm coming to you, I need some help, what is it you're going to do with me, and how are we going to delight me as a client?
First, what we'd obviously do is make sure we sign a confidentiality agreement. We don't want you sharing your idea with us until it's properly kind of legally covered and you got the confidence from that. And then really we'd be about making sure that you knew what you were getting into. So I think sometimes programs like The Apprentice and things make product development seem very easy. And people on LinkedIn and stuff tend to share the success stories and don't share the failures. So we'd want to really kind of help you to understand quite what the journey looked like, quite what was involved, and also probably how much money you'd need to have or how much money you'd need to be raising one way or another. And then from there, we'd be looking more at the kind of overall strategy, how you're going to sell it, what you're trying to get out of the project, that type of thing. And really only when we've got to a point where we're happy that there's a clear kind of strategy and way forward, and you're comfortable with that, then we'd get into the kind of technical details of what's the amazing new invention and what's it going to do and how it's going to solve this problem or that problem. And I think in terms of how we delight our clients, I guess that strategic help all the way through the journey, not just a kind of standard product design agency might charge you for some sketching and some CAD and build you a prototype and then kind of say, well, on your way, you sort the rest out. We've done our bit. We're much more involved in the whole process, and we've got a whole network around us of things like patent attorneys and business advisors and marketing agencies and all the other contacts you're going to need, right the way through to things like consultants to help you sell on Amazon. So, and that's what our clients really love, I guess, is the fact that we can help through the whole process if they need it and set them up right the way from kind of initial thinking about whether you even want to do the project right the way through to, okay, you've now got products selling on Amazon.
And will I pay for that as in time for hours? Am I paying you for hours paid, or am I paying you as a percentage of royalties? What's your sort of business model around that? Because that's a lot of pre-work that you've got to do before you even get to am I going to spend any money at all?
Yeah, no, indeed, and there is a lot of pre-work involved. That's one of our challenges as a business, I guess. But no, we basically would put together a proposal, step-by-step approach through multiple kind of stages, and there'd be costs against those stages. And I think we've experimented with other business models in the past, and I've known various other people in the industry who've done things like take royalties or all that kind of thing. But generally speaking, we don't really find that works. And one of the reasons is if you have an amazing, $1 million idea and it's selling all these, hundreds of thousands of products every year, in 3 or 4 years' time, the last thing you're going to want to be doing is seeing this kind of check going out to your design firm that you haven't worked with for many months, but are still taking significant amounts of money. So most people actually would prefer to own all of their idea if they can, and so we generally facilitate that. The other thing I'd say is that investing in ideas is not what we're good at. We know people who are very skilled in that area and understand due diligence and all of that type of thing, but we really stick with what we're good at. And we're good at the product development, prototyping, sourcing the right manufacturers, textile product development. We've got a specific team for that. We'll do all that side of it, and then we'll let someone else worry about doing the investment side and working that bit out. Yeah. And also with things like crowdfunding and stuff that we help with a lot of the time people just don't actually need to give up equity in their business or a stake in their idea. One of the great things about coming up with a new product in this day and age is that there are all those kind of things available to help you get off the ground, without suddenly finding you own 2.5% of your idea because you've had to give up so much of it for so much money through the journey.
Yes, yeah, no, and crowdfunding is an amazing way of doing that and selling your first production runs and getting those first initial monies to get over the line. Yes, no, I know Kickstarter well. It has consumed some of my time and money. So from the consumer side, not on the investment.
Oh, right, backing products and things. Yeah, I think what people don't often realize about those crowdfunding platforms is that it's just pre-orders. So it's not like people are getting any stake in your business or anything else. They're just saying, okay, well, for a 20 or 30% discount over what the RRP would be, you can have it early. But the advantage for you as an innovator is then you get all this pre-sale money coming in even before you've ever tooled up for the product. So then that covers a lot of those tooling and production costs, which is ideal, really.
Yeah, and also you're actually then testing the marketplace without having to have a product.
Yeah, and quite a few companies now use Kickstarter and things precisely for that reason. It's actually very cheap market research, and reliable, because it's not like a focus group saying, "Oh yeah, I would buy it." It's actually people have committed those funds from their bank account. So at that point, you can really rely on it, and people are really engaged on the platform in terms of feedback. Going, simple example, but I'd rather have it in green. Why haven't you done a green one? And that type of thing. So it can be really, really good for that.
Yeah, it's a modern way of, I always remember from my design stages of Sony when they brought out the Walkman, they built each generation, they would build 8 or 9 different variations, and they would go to a specific marketplace in Japan, and they would put these different variations out there and see which ones sold, and those were the ones they then put into production to be able to actually build. Have to physically test in the marketplace.
That's hugely expensive to do. If you're Sony, you can probably afford it. I mean, crowdfunding would be a cheaper way, certainly. And one of our clients, they just launched
back it then.
No, indeed. So you didn't have a lot of choice, but now you can do it a lot more cost effectively. Yeah, one of our clients recently launched a gym bag, and interestingly, their first crowdfunding campaign came back with so much feedback that they just stopped it, redeveloped the product with all the customer feedback, and then launched on Kickstarter for a second time and successfully funded that through. So, yeah.
So, typical types of customers, who are the people that are coming along to, with a product idea that need your sort of help and develop that?
A lot of our clients basically have come from a business background, that maybe they've run an existing business already, but they're looking for a new challenge or to do something different, or they're just really excited about this new idea. Often we get people from a marketing background, which is fantastic because a huge chunk of the journey actually is marketing the product. So if they can bring those skills to the project, then that's great. And also, lots of small businesses, maybe, for example, a company that's been selling a product they bought from a Far East factory for the last 10 years. They've done very well with it, but now they want their own product, or they want to reduce their returns rates, and they've got all sorts of kind of customer feedback on things they want to improve on the product. We've worked with kind of various people like that. And also people who come to us and go, well, look, this is selling really well in the market, but our margins have been eroded. We've got to increase our margins. Can you redesign this so that either we can charge more or that we can produce the same kind of product more cost effectively? So yeah, generally speaking, we work kind of across a whole spectrum of startups and some kind of FTSE 500 listed companies as well, who have got new ideas for new product ranges and things that we've helped them with. But as you can probably tell, my my particular passion is helping those small businesses or startups to get a new innovative product off the ground, potentially when they're up against some big companies, and how do they kind of get ahead and get a foot into that market.
Brilliant. And what do you think makes you different? You're successful at doing that. What do you delight your customers that they're successful through this?
The main reason that we're different is we've done the journey from the other side. So we had an idea for a pushchair. I had 3 boys. Well, the oldest is now nearly 15. We went through 4 or 5 different pushchairs. They were all, in their own unique ways, rubbish. We had a lot of experience in designing golf trolleys. We had a lot of baby product experience under our belts. We designed about 30 or 40 different baby products of all different kind of types, and we thought, well, let's put our money where our mouth is and let's develop our own pushchair product. So yeah, we did that and then launched it with John Lewis, and that I think makes a huge difference, because we really understand and have empathy for our clients and what they're going through at any step of the journey. So we're not just an outsourced service provider who can do a part of it. We're people who actually really get it, and can help them with the overall strategy, and as a result, we understand how product development really fits into the wider kind of commercial picture of launching successful products.
Brilliant. Yes, you've walked the walk, so you can know what actually happens and takes place. I mean, are there peaks and troughs of people coming along? Is there a steady stream of people turning up at your door? I mean, I'm fascinated. What's the sort of the marketplace like?
Yeah, I had no idea originally, but actually we have peaks and troughs predominantly around confidence in the economy, which isn't what I ever expected when I came into this industry, this business. But what we find is, when there are lots of news stories about recession and all this kind of other stuff, that actually there's far fewer inquiries. Equally, when house prices are on the up and everyone's very positive about the economy and everything, then actually we find that we have loads of people kind of coming to us. So actually, it's really driven by that, and that's partly because I guess investors, generally speaking, are more positive if the economic situation is generally more positive, and if people feel like they can get investment, even if they don't really need it, then that kind of encourages them to kind of give the project a go. And it's ironic, really, because quite a lot of the major innovation, like kind of Dysons and that type of thing, happened actually in major economic downturns. But nevertheless, it still seems to be that people tend to think more positively about investing in this type of thing as and when actually there's more money flowing and the economy is generally on the up.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. Yeah, I never thought about it. Yeah, you would have thought that there are lots of people out there, but yeah, it's based on the investment cycle. Yeah, no, it's going to be very true around that. I can see that. So let's go back. D2M. When did you start? How big are you now? What's your journey we're going to explore next?
Yeah, that's some big questions there. So I started back in 2010. And it was just me in a back bedroom, basically in our kind of little terraced house. But actually, it grew really rapidly for whatever reasons in those times. I guess economy was on the up, as we just talked about. Things are very positive. So yeah, we grew very rapidly, and then the journey, like most business journeys, is a huge roller coaster, I guess. Just a couple of years in, the business partners who started the company with me and funded it, we ended up splitting, and I ended up buying them out actually and kind of taking the company forward on my own. So that was a pretty nail-biting time for all sorts of reasons. And from there, it really continued to grow quite rapidly, which was great. And we got to a point where we had a team of about kind of 18 people. And at that point or around there, we decided to kind of go with the pushchair project as well. So we kind of had a bit of a team going for that as well. So we ended up, really quite crammed into our kind of 5,000 square feet building with all our prototyping facilities and all these pushchair samples everywhere and everything else that's going on. So yeah, and then actually, interestingly, through through that season, realized that a lot of what I was doing was not why I'd ever gone into business, and not what I wanted to be doing. And so, ended up having to take some fairly tricky decisions really over actually, how did I want the business to look, to fit with not just what I wanted to maybe achieve commercially out of the business, but also what I wanted to be doing with my time and what suited me personality wise and everything else. So yeah, for several years, really, I ended up doing a lot of stuff that I just really found challenging, very unmotivating stuff I really didn't want to be doing. And so, yeah, made some deliberate decisions basically to kind of scale things back. And we now are a really nice size. So we're about 10 in all, with our kind of freelance designers and our kind of in-house team. And that's a nice manageable level that means I don't spend too much of my day doing stuff that I don't really like to do. And I get a bit of capacity now to do some creative projects, which, yeah, for a long time was really missing. And as a creative person, that was a real struggle. So yeah.
Absolutely. We call it the scale-up journey, that first 3 to 5, you can get your hands around it. When you get to the 12, you need more leadership style. You need another leader in the business. When you get to the 20 to 25, you now need a team of leaders around you. You're more in the strategic stuff rather than doing stuff. Yeah. So I can see how that's definitely, changed, definitely changes, and depends on what you want to do and achieve. And so you've scaled it back to do exactly what you want. Yeah, I can see that. So what type of things were then frustrating you, or was getting in the way of Phil the creative?
I just think when you've got a team of kind of 18, 20 people or so, unless you've managed to bring in, as you said, that kind of other leader or a leadership team, and that's really hard to afford at that stage. That's one of the big challenges with an agency where you've got at that point still a limited number of billable staff. Unless you can suddenly massively increase your margin somehow to pay for all this additional management support and leadership, then you end up basically doing a lot of it yourself. And that's the situation we were in basically. I was having to be head of HR, and I was having to do all the other roles involved in a company of that kind of size with no real kind of training or understanding of what I was doing in any of those roles. And as such, just ended up not really being involved in any of the kind of technical projects anymore, certainly not doing any of my own projects anymore, because I was literally just, finance and Excel spreadsheets and projections and cash flow forecasts and kind of HR issues and procedures and policies and onboarding manuals and all this kind of stuff that we desperately needed for a company of that size. It was no longer, as you say, kind of 3 or 4. You don't really need any of that because you can just manage it day to day because you're there and it's small enough to do that. So putting all that stuff in place, I'm sure there are people out there who would love doing all of that, but for me, I'm big picture, much more excited about where the company's going as opposed to, actually doing all the kind of nitty gritty process detail stuff. So, yeah. And I try to solve that problem with design managers or studio managers or business partners. And I'm quite willing to accept that I might be the problem in all of that I'm just very difficult to work with. I'm quite willing that is the reason, but for whatever reason.
I'm sure not.
But for whatever reason, I never managed to get any of those to kind of work effectively. And again, probably I didn't have the time, the capacity, the expertise, the understanding of what it would really take to recruit someone in who would be a really good leader. Because if you're employing a designer, I know exactly what to look for in a designer, and that's one thing. But if you bring in a mid-manager or a leader in the business who isn't right, actually they change the culture very quickly. And that's far more damaging than a designer coming in maybe and messing up a few projects. I think you need to recruit on a very different, from a much higher level of experience and to really know what you're doing with recruitment, because if you get it wrong, as I say, the consequences for the business are huge. So I think having got it wrong 6 or 7 times, we just took the decision, right, okay, stop doing this. It's too much heartache, too much money wasted, too much time lost.
I mean that's a wonderful thought there, really. Finding the right sort of leadership person is, you can replace us. We as business owners, we create a business around our skills, don't we? And our passion and where we are. We don't create a business around, well, we're going to build a business to be X amount of size. So you're doing that. You're finding people that can replace you, but that leadership role, is a really key one. That's a fascinating thought. So, I mean, what do you think you got wrong with finding because you've admitted it, it didn't work out as you expected, and you had to scale back the business to what you want and where you're now happy with, which is brilliant. I'm interested, for our audience, what sort of things do you think you got wrong, and for our audience to think about if they're at that stage and want to do that?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I got wrong was thinking that a designer could become a manager or a leader. And actually, it wasn't just me that got that wrong. Some of the people I recruited in to be studio managers, thought they wanted that as the next step in their career. But actually, for creative people, particularly, I think if they suddenly step away from doing the creative stuff and suddenly managing, it sometimes isn't what they thought it was going to be, and isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
And I think also there's a level of arrogance somewhere, certainly in the people that I recruited to those roles, where they kind of thought, with no real training, no qualifications in it, or anything else, that actually they could just one day be a designer and the next day be a studio manager. And of course, actually, it's a completely different skill set. And so that was certainly one of the things that got wrong. I think also, I tried the kind of business partner route 3 or 4 times during that as well. And I think one of the reasons for that, just being entirely open and honest with you and the listeners, is that it's bloody lonely. Running a company, being responsible for everything, being the person everyone looks to when you walk in the room. They're like, well, what's the agenda, Phil? What are we talking about? Constantly all eyes on you. It gets highly frustrating. And so I really wanted to be doing this with somebody else. And I wanted, I guess, some of that pressure to be shared. So that was why the business partner route was appealing. But thinking about it afterwards and looking back in hindsight, it's almost like a marriage. You are going to be sharing the dreams of the business together. You're going to be working really closely together. When one of you's up or down, then it's going to reflect on the other person. You're going to feel some level of responsibility to kind of help with that and everything else. And I just think that the process I went through from deciding to get married was way more, extensive and careful and long term than the process I went through to, oh yeah, you'd be a great business partner. And I think you've got to fit on so many different levels and everything else. So.
A recent podcast, somebody called it was it a business husband was the expression they used. Nobody told me I'd have a business husband.
Yeah, and at times, I've used the phrase kind of work wife, or had it used about people that I'm working with. So, and you've got to get a lot right, I think, if you're going to be a business partner with someone else. And I think, in terms of business failure, I think the number one reason is cash flow, but I think the number 2 reason is falling out with your business partners. And certainly from my experience working with these clients over the years and everything else, the main reason that projects kind of fail is actually because the innovators fall out and all that type of thing. And it is just very, very difficult, I think, to actually find someone to stay in business with.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Definitely a few people out there that are experiencing that, and probably experiencing it right now. Well, so you scaled the business back to where you are today. So how does the dynamics work better now within the team? What have you put in place to make it more successful for you at the size you're at now?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I think what we've got now is a highly experienced senior team, which takes huge amounts of pressure off me. And I think one of the things when you're growing a business is you're tempted to bring in cheaper, less experienced people, but actually that costs way more. I was talking to a friend who's running a business that's at that really awkward kind of size of 22 people at the moment, and I said, if you're looking for my advice, pay as much as you possibly can for the most experienced people you possibly can, because it's no guarantee that they're going to be great, but you've got a little bit more chance that they're actually going to be able to do a really good job for you, rather than you ending up picking up pieces and everything else, which then, creates huge amounts of issues within the business. So I think now we just don't employ anyone who's got anything less than 10 years commercial experience. And that makes a massive difference, because they're way more able to handle clients effectively, deal with issues that come up in terms of projects, manage their own workloads effectively and everything else. So that just means that I'm not spending so much time dealing with all of that at all, which makes a huge difference, and makes me feel way better out running the business. If I got to come in every day and just deal with messes created by junior team getting things wrong, a few years of doing that, and you're like, oh my goodness, why am I getting out of bed? So
yeah, so bringing those really experienced people that helps. And how's the dynamics in the team changed over time? We talk about the culture. How have you evolved that? What things have you put in place? Mechanisms you put in place to develop that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we went through a really bad patch culturally, and one of the reasons is that in this kind of growth season where I had to have additional management support, we brought in a kind of part-time FD who was hugely experienced, reaching the end of his career, whereas at the time, I was kind of early 30s, so very much kind of, I need some kind of serious kind of proven expertise here. So brought this guy in, and he did an amazing job. He brought in loads of reporting and all sorts of stuff that we just didn't have and really needed. But the problem was, he was a really good FD, which meant he was very, very focused on the numbers, to a point where, and there wasn't much checks and balances to that as you would have in a wider team, I guess. But the designers just got to a point where they were like, we're really fed up with this. All we ever hear in team meetings is this number or that metric, or that we've got to change this, or our time logging's not good enough, or whatever it was. And it really kind of sucked a bit of the life and the creativity, I guess, out of the culture and things. So it reached a natural point with this guy where he wasn't involved any longer in the company, and we just ended up probably having to kind of rebuild that kind of culture over a couple of years kind of after that, really. And again, I think the senior team thing kind of really helps. There's something nice about having the energy of juniors and all that kind of stuff. But actually, if everyone is senior and gets it and has commercial experience and everything else, I think that has created a much more professional culture where efficiency isn't something we have to bang on about all the time, because everyone already gets it. They know they're in a commercial environment, and you can't just spend 15 days designing something that we've only budgeted 3 days and the client's only paid for 3 days to be designed. So and if all the team understand that, and suddenly you're not talking about that all the time, then that makes a huge difference, and you can actually be much more creative and talking about the stuff that is much more interesting and much more positive for everyone.
Yeah. A recent guest at our ScaleUp club, he talked about the pendulum that constantly moves from over processes, too much reporting, to actually not enough. Yeah, and finding that sweet spot in the middle is a constant movement in a business. I thought that's very true. Exactly that. You can go too far with that level of thinking, and start to slow the business down rather than actually speed it up and make it more efficient.
Yeah, it did. We were just coming a little bit like lawyers. We got a kind of time clock, right? You kind of hit the time clock and you're measuring in 6-minute chunks and billing in 6-minute chunks or whatever. It's just like, this is just going to kill the business. It's just not going to be any fun for anyone,
Yeah.
None of my team wants to be lawyers. They're not lawyers. We can't work like that.
Yes. So you're out there trying to find work. What sort of marketing strategies? What works for you that brings in the steady clients for growth?
If I'm absolutely honest with you, I have no idea. We tried all sorts of things, and I think I'm still kind of at a point of not knowing exactly really what works marketing wise and doesn't. And it might sound odd, but at the end of the day, I think it's hard sometimes when you look at all the data, and we do track all of our activities marketing wise and everything else, and where all our inquiries have come from and all that type of thing. But at the end of the day, it's difficult to know really what marketing route is working versus how in that marketing route we presented our messaging or any of that kind of stuff, and whether actually this marketing avenue wasn't any good because fundamentally the way we presented the business wasn't that effective compared with some of the other things we've done. So what I love is when we get referrals or when we get repeat clients or clients who refer to other clients, because that's effectively free marketing. Free in terms of effort and energy as well as in terms of finance. We do get a certain amount of that. But in terms of the rest of it, I think we try various different things. I've got a YouTube channel. Is it worth it marketing wise? I don't think so. It's been a massive amount of work and time and effort. And yes, we've won a few clients through it. Enough to pay for all of that stuff? Probably not. We get some through kind of organic SEO, but there's been a huge amount of work and time invested to kind of appear up some of the search results. So, has that worked a bit? So, again, is it worth it? I don't know. Probably not. So, I think there's lots of stuff we've dropped. So we don't really do much in terms of social media marketing anymore. We try various different things with that. And I don't know about you, but what I find is there's loads of agencies out there who are very good at taking my money off me, saying that they're going to be really good at marketing me on TikTok or this, or marketing a new podcast or whatever it is. And every week there's another magic bullet, isn't there? All you've got to do is video letters, or all you've got to do is this, and all this type of thing. Personally, I just don't. I'm a bit cynical now, having tried quite a few of them. I just don't believe any of that hype anymore. And I think that marketing the business is probably about, doing a really good job for customers. And then, doing a range of different marketing activities to try and ensure that at least something at any one time is working well enough to bring in enough for the business. Yeah,
I think the key to marketing is not just, it's never a single channel. There's always multiple channels. One of the biggest channels is client referrals, and doing an amazing job for your clients. And they talk about that and refer other people to them because of the type of industries that we're across. But you need those multiple channels that just sort of dripping in, a few here, a few there, and building those and experimenting, switching those off that don't work and just leaving those running that do work. Absolutely. Very good advice. Very good advice. So, let's meet up and have a cup of coffee in 5 years' time. Let's meet face to face instead of on Zoom, and don't record it, but just have a conversation. What's happened for you in the last in those 5 years when we meet, that's been both professionally and personally, to say that's been a successful 5 years?
It's a really interesting question. I think the first thing is it's the wrong question. And the reason for that is I've learned, I guess, over the last 14 years of running a business, that trying to plan where you're going to be in the next 5 years is a fool's game. The number of 5-year kind of visions or where we were going to be in that time that we've kind of missed is huge, because at the end of the day, an opportunity could come along tomorrow which is too good to miss, and you push in that direction instead. So I think I've learned, running a small business, that really try and have some kind of idea of where we're going to be in 2 years. And that means that you're not tied down to a point where you can't kind of adapt with the market or what the customer's demanding or anything else. But I think to try and answer the question reasonably well, for me, it's more about giving back, and it's more about kind of balance within my role within the business, and trying to ensure really that actually we're doing some great designs and some great products that turning over £1 million plus every year. Absolutely, it's always been about that, and trying to get more commercial successful products for our clients out there. Absolutely. But alongside that, I'm quite concerned about the impact that we're having on the environment, the biodiversity loss, all that kind of other stuff as well. So one of the things I'm exploring at the moment, because whatever product we put out there, it's bad for the environment. And some other design firms are trying to be more sustainable and trying to use recycled plastics, all this kind of stuff. But it avoids the point, which is that putting out any new product is killing the planet. one way or another. So I think I'm looking more at what other things have a bigger impact in terms of improving the environment, nature, reduction in over CO2, nitrates in soil, all that kind of stuff, and really trying to balance then what we do as a company for our clients with what we also kind of give to or support or kind of are involved in project-wise that is actually improving the environment and planet. And I've got 3 boys. As I said, the eldest is nearly 15. And then the other 2 are kind of 13 and 12. And I'm just very aware that we're going to leave them a far worse planet than when I was their age. And that is something I think our generation really needs to kind of grapple with a bit and go, we've still got time to turn around the fact that actually we've done a terrible disservice to our children in what we've done to the planet over the last 40 or so years.
And just before we sum up and go to the quickfire round, Dragon's Den. Can you tell us what was Dragon's Den and what happened with those?
And we've had a few products on Dragon's Den. I'll talk about the latest one that literally aired a couple of weeks ago. So it's a boiler thermostat for landlords with multiple occupancy homes. So one of the issues is my client is a landlord, experienced this firsthand. He organised to come around and help the tenants with an issue with the property. He appears, heating's on full, all the windows are open, and it's a bills included rent. And he's like, this is ridiculous, and also bad for the environment. So he's on generation 4 or 5 of his product now. So we've been working with him for many years, developing this and improving this and everything else to try and get to a point where it's good for the tenant. Absolutely. They've got to be warm. The house has got to not be damp, all that kind of thing. But equally, if you, again, with Airbnb and that type of thing, if you're only in there for a week, you don't want to have to read the manual to learn how to use the thermostat. So trying to come up with a better product that solves those problems and works for the tenant and the landlord, basically. So it was on Dragon's Den recently. It got investment, which is great. And we're just waiting to see what happens with that. It's quite an exciting time, really.
Brilliant. Wow, that's fantastic finish. I love that. Thank you so much. I mean, Phil, what a fantastic conversation we've had, about, products, Dragon's Den, building things that people want and need, but that real understanding that you help your clients test and understand, is it valid first before you even talk about what's the product, how we're going to assemble it, what we're going to make it from, and taking them through that journey, which is based on your own experience of making pushchairs, and taking that forward. Giving your clients that real understanding of that. We talked about crowdfunding and different ways of testing that environment. And then your journey of, you started off 2010, you grew to about 18 people and you went, this is not what I wanted. And having that strength of character to just say, no, this is not right, and scaling the business back to what's right for you, what delivers that you want the business to succeed at. And thank you for that, feedback about, how do you go about recruiting the right leadership person and the difficulties you've had on that, and taking that through, and really thinking about, as the business scales, you need that right leadership, and you try different ways to do that, and then scale back from doing that. And I love your approach to recruitment. You talked about, if you haven't got 10 years experience, because actually you're bringing that experienced person into the business that can then actually just get up and run, keep that product going, keep that project going, got that commercial experience, rather than starting with juniors for doing that. And that's right within the organization, the business you've created, and what you want to do. That's fantastic. And thank you for your honesty on marketing. That's very refreshing. Absolutely. That's brilliant. But I really, my way to take away, is the passion that you have for helping your clients, thinking about that product, developing that product, but not just what it is. And the fact that even you saying that we are impacting the environment with everything we put out there, and how can we lessen that? How can we improve that? How can we make those changes for that? And, creating a future for our own children, not through everything that we make, rather than just making new products. So Phil, it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you very much. We'll just end with our quick fire round, if I may. If you went back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
It's a really interesting question. I think I would tell my younger self, and I wouldn't listen, by the way, at that point, but I would tell my younger self that I really needed to deeply consider who I was and what really gave me energy and what role I really wanted to take in the business before just launching in and trying to grow the biggest business that I could. And I hope I will be able to help my younger self to appreciate actually what it would look like for me at that point. If I grew the business to this size or this size, what the consequences would be personally, and actually to think through, did I really want that? Because I think at the time when I started, I just wanted, a big design company with loads of clients and great designers and everything else. And for some people, I'm sure that's absolutely right. But it proved for me that actually that was really exhausting, really draining, and really hard on my mental well-being, and wasn't the right thing to aim for. So.
Brilliant. Thank you. Any books you recommend?
Yeah, this is probably not one that anyone else is going to recommend, but Bread Song by Kitty and Al Tate. It's a book about a girl who starts a bakery. So it is a book about business, actually, but there's also some amazing recipes and stuff at the end of it. But there's some real lessons in it, and it's beautifully written anyway. But it's about how her dad helps her to do this. And I think, for me, it was just about how important and how great it can be to have someone who's got your best interests at heart working alongside you to start a business, and everything he helps her with and how he encourages her and supports her in it and everything else. I think is fantastic. And it's also it grows very organically, the business. And I think there's some real lessons for anyone in there running a business about how to kind of make that happen. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'll definitely be looking that one up. I haven't got that one on my list, so it will be after this recording. Any podcasts you recommend?
I don't actually listen to very many podcasts on business, I'm afraid. I'd have to look up the name of it. I might come back to that, sorry. But one podcast at the moment that I am really listening to avidly and can't wait for when it comes out every week is something called The Grange Project, which is two people a husband and wife team who've bought 80 acres in South Wales that they're rewilding. But their podcast looks at all sorts of things about how we eat more sustainably and all that type of stuff. And I'm finding that really helpful in terms of just small things that I can change that mean that a better impact in terms of our wider environment and world we live in.
Thank you. Wow, that sounds fascinating as well. Fantastic. Onto your mobile phone, any apps that make a difference for you?
No, not really, if I'm honest. Okay. I don't use any kind of, time scheduling apps or any of those kind of things. No, not really. One that's made a real bad impact for me for many years actually was the Lloyd's banking app, which sent me a text message at 7 o'clock every day as to what my business bank account was. There were times when the cash flow was really tight where I did not need to wake up every day knowing how much was in the bank account. So that was a really unhelpful app.
Okay, very interesting, like that one. My favorite question of all, who's had the most influence on you as a business owner?
Oh, wow. That is a good question. And I think my wife probably, and not in the way you kind of expect. And she's hugely encouraging and supportive and everything else. She is that sometimes, but she's also deeply realistic. And as she reminds me, it's very easy for someone to be encouraging and supportive about all your great business ideas, Phil, when they don't actually have to live with the consequences of any of those ideas. So the reason she has the most influence and impact, I guess, on me is that she is a good counterbalance to all of that. And she is very detailed and process orientated and that side of things. Whereas, as I say, I'm kind of big picture and visionary. And so it's really helpful to kind of weigh that really and help with that side of stuff. Brilliant.
And finally, Phil, how can people get hold of you?
Yeah, so our website, www.design2market.co.uk. And I would just say, click on Academy in the top bar. It's really obvious. And there's a whole load of resources there, step-by-step guides to branding products and designing products and prototyping and all sorts of articles I've written, YouTube videos and everything else, and a fantastic free ebook, which might sound a bit dull, but actually includes a lot of my personal journey launching my own product. And I'm hugely candid in it about everything I got wrong, everything I should have done differently. And I'm just very keen that people kind of learn from my mistakes and from the mistakes of kind of previous clients as well. So we packed that with loads of really interesting advice. So yeah, I really highly recommend you grab a copy of if you've got any intention of developing a product at any point.
Brilliant. That's awesome. Thank you, Phil. And, at the end of the day, really good design will change the world, and I totally agree. You will find those ways of helping the world and the planet. So, I passionately believe in that and fully understand that. So, Phil, thank you so much for this amazing conversation today.
No, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been really good.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.